All right. Let's set this up. Make sure we are working. All right, guys. Hello. I'm going to get straight into this today. If you jump on live, say hi. If you're watching it on replay, I love when you comment replay below because it just lets me know who's connected and I can follow up with you, see what resonated, and we can have a bit of a chat about it. So today, let me go ahead and share my screen. Today, I'm kind of I feel a little bit jittery, and I always know when I'm sharing something that's like super personal to me, I get this kind of anxious energy, but in a good way. And what I'm sharing with you today is something that I have been doing for years now, that has really helped me make big shifts within my mind, within my body, and within my life. And so sharing it openly like this feels a little bit unusual because this is something that I do in private. I hold sacred space for myself. This isn't something that I talk about. It's just something that I use to process my own emotions and my thinking. So talking about it today feels a little funny. And I'm excited to be starting this conversation with you all because it's such a powerful practice. So in the 27-day mindset reset program I am launching on Sunday, I'm teaching 7 different ways to approach journaling, because my hope is that each woman will find something that resonates with her. I felt like it was pretty useless for me to say this is the way to do it, because either you'll pick that up and it will work for you or it won't. And I didn't want a woman to kind of, try and approach and think, oh no, journaling isn't for me, when I know there are so many ways that we can do it. Today, though, I'm just going to teach one specific practice that I have found to be really powerful in helping me just work through emotions that tend to overwhelm me. I know for a lot of experiences within my life, when I found myself in certain situations, I would just feel a certain just energy through me that pulled me up and down and backwards and forwards. And I didn't know what I was thinking or how I was feeling. All I knew that I was so uncomfortable within myself. And that was a terrible feeling. And this type of journaling really helped me to work through that and to start feeling safety and security within myself rather than feeling like I was just a hot mess all the time. So I'm excited to share this with you now. Let's get going. Okay. When I first began journaling with intention, more than just the high school Dear Diary, what I found was that it was very intimidating. And I would sit there in front of a blank piece of paper, knowing that it was supposed to help me to get all my thoughts out onto paper, but not really knowing how to do it. And the advice that I had been given quite casually, without much direction, was just journal your heart out. And initially, what my experience was that I would just sit there and just kind of like vomit all of this self loathing and judgment and criticism of myself and my life and others. Excuse me. And it just felt like shit. It was just acknowledging all the ways that I was suffering and hurting. And in a way, that was cathartic to get it out, but I didn't know what to do with that. It was like more evidence of the fact that I felt like shit within myself. And so, if you've ever tried journaling before and it just hasn't really moved the needle forward in any way, and maybe it's actually felt like shit, I understand that you might have some resistance or hesitation or just roll your eyes whenever someone suggests that you journal, because you think like, I just don't get it. It seems like bullshit. It's unenjoyable. It seems like homework. All of these sorts of things might pop up for you. So I'm hoping today, by teaching you this, I can show you that journaling isn't just about writing. It's about actually having a strategy and a system in a really soulful way that allows us to integrate what we know about neurology and what we know about soul work, and to use that in order to best support ourselves. Before I get started, let me see what my first slide is. Yeah. Ugh, a typo on my first slide. Ignore that and listen as I say. Before we get started, there is a neurologist called Rick Hansen, and he talks about negativity bias. And basically, in his research and the things that he has reported on, it shows that our brains are basically like Teflon for positive experiences and Velcro for negative experiences. We all just have a natural, innate inclination to really feel negative things more deeply and for longer. and in a way that kind of feels unavoidable. Now, if you feel like you're a person that always has something going on within them, you're always doubting yourself, you're always resisting, you're always hesitating, yeah, your cup feels half empty a lot of the time, you might think that there's something wrong with you. And the good news is, it's not just you. It's not just you. Our brains, our primal brains, are designed to have a negativity bias unless we are conscious of what we are thinking and how it is making us feel daily. The other thing that I think is really important to be mindful of is that our beliefs frame the way that we see the world. Our beliefs about ourselves and the way that the world operates actually creates the experience that you have within yourself and in the world. But most of our beliefs have actually been embedded within us as children. 80% of your beliefs are embedded within you by the time you are 8 years old. The first 50% is by the time you're 5, and then 80% by the time you're 8, and then 95% of what you believe, what you think is true for you, the way that the world operates, what you are capable of, yeah, is decided by the time you are 15 years old. And the problem is these beliefs that we carry about who we are, what we're capable of, what we can handle, they were decided at an age that we have not yet experienced ourselves and the world in our true capacity, but they limit us today. And so when we're working through a writing practice like journaling, what we are doing is not making anything that we are feeling wrong. We're not trying to deny anything. We're not trying to stop anything. What we're trying to do is create a deeper understanding of who we are, how we see the world, how we operate within the world. And from that place, we can begin to question whether our lived experience is the only truth that we can use for who we are and how the world operates. We just begin to question things. We just begin to kind of shine a light on the operating systems within our minds that are creating all the background noise about what we think and how we feel, and how that is impacting what we are experiencing in the moment that we are in. It's cool stuff. It's really cool stuff. And so this journal practice today that I'm sharing is about taking some time when you just feel that you're just like a volcano ready to erupt with emotion. And it might not be anger or rage. I think a volcano insinuates that, you know, it's rageful. It could just be you're just really flat, really sad, really depressed, really down. Or you just feel really edgy and anxious. So whatever it is, okay, this is what we're going to be going through today. So it's just you're feeling a whole lot of stuff that you don't really understand and you don't necessarily want to feel. So journaling allows us to create a dialogue with ourselves and to get to know our internal world, to get to know what goes on within us that creates the experience that we are having in the moment that we are in. And writing is a powerful way to invite yourself to rebuild a relationship with the many versions of you that live within your internal world. If you've done work with me before, you know one of the most powerful messages that I like to share is that you are not actually who you think you are. And you are definitely not what you have been told. We are more than just the roles that we claim. We're more than what we do for work. We're more than our relationship status. We're more than what we have even chosen to believe for ourselves. There is so much to us. We are multifaceted beings. But the way our society is set up is that we have to very quickly be able to articulate and explain who we are, what is meaningful to us, and the way that we contribute in the world. And now Instagram will have us doing it in 150 characters or less. Who are you? We have to answer in a way that is very narrow and shallow. And so journaling allows us to turn inward and realize there's so much more to us. There's more depth to us. There are so many versions of us that are all, you know, worthy of our time and our attention, not just the one version of ourselves that we may have been operating from potentially out of default for far too long. If who you are and how you have been experiencing the world is leaving you feeling just unsatisfied, unfulfilled, like there could be something more to you or for you, it's good news because there's so much more within you that could appear if you held space for it. So, very quickly, if you haven't been sold yet, the benefits of journal practices. in my experience anyway, has been that it can help you clear your mind in a way that can feel really cathartic. You get everything out so that what we actually are doing is creating space within ourselves for new ways of being and new perspectives and new thoughts to actually appear, so that we're not just having the same things on repeat every day. 80% of our thoughts each day are negative, and 95% of what we think is repetitive. We're not actually thinking new things. We're experiencing this world in the same way day after day because we're just thinking the same shit. So if we want to create or cause or experience ourselves in a new way, we need to start thinking differently, but we need to create the space for that. We need to be able to look at what we're thinking and how it's impacting us and decide what can go and hold space for new ways of being. Journaling also helps you see the inner workings of your mind. It's hard to deny what you are thinking when it's there in front of you. And man, there are so many times where I will write something and I read it back and I just have to go like, whoa, is this really what I think? Not from a place of judgment, but just an honesty, just a self-witnessing that we might not do as we rush around day to day. You'll get to see the different voices in your head. Sometimes you'll be really loving and compassionate and have empathy for yourself, and sometimes you'll be really critical. It's really interesting just to observe which parts of you are coming forward on any given day. You'll also be able to see your own patterns and the self-talk that you have. It's a really safe and supportive way to process any overwhelming emotions that you have. Okay, so let's dive into this particular strategy today. Like I said, in the program that I'm launching this Sunday, there's so many things that are being included. Journaling is just one little component of it. And I'm teaching many different forms of journaling. I've got them all there on the side of the screen that you can see: morning pages, thought download, gratitude, writing your emotions, which is what we're going to go through today, lessons from the day, and manifestation. So I'm teaching you this today. I'm in no way saying this is the only thing that you should do, or it is the only way to journal, and it's not the only way that I journal. It's just one of the many ways that we can approach it. So here we go. Writing your emotions. So many women that I speak to are terrified of their own emotions. That's a conversation for another day, and I won't get into that because I want to make this short and snappy and focused on the journaling. So by taking time to truly sit with how you are feeling in the moment you are in, you are giving yourself permission to access what is going on within you, what's happening within your internal world. And we're using writing to bring that forward and capture it so that we can start seeing how different feelings or situations are affecting you. And in that space, when we sit down to journal, a special sacred time that's just for us, writing that's just for us, a safe container that will only be seen and observed by us, we make it safe for us to say things or bring forward things or declare things or admit things that we might not have been comfortable saying out loud. In getting these thoughts on paper, not only are we able to work with them and understand them and work through them, we're actually helping ourselves shift energy through our body. It's an emotional energy that comes up and out and through us. And it's not only validating, but also a very effective tool for processing whatever you are feeling, right? It's, if you can imagine yourself as a fizzy bottle and all the emotions are, there within you. Writing allows you to kind of remove that lid and just ease the pressure on that a little bit so you don't feel so shook up on the inside, right? So the aim of writing our emotions is to better identify and clarify and express what's truly coming up for you, and see if you can determine the unmet need below the thought and feeling without judgment. When we don't understand how we are feeling, when we can't articulate it, when we can't identify it, we don't know what to do in order to soothe the way we are feeling. And sometimes we make it other people's problems, our partners, our close friends, our family, right? We start to spew our confused emotions onto them. And because we don't understand the need behind that emotion, we try and make somebody else responsible for the way that we are feeling because we don't understand what is going on within us. And these are all things that we want to avoid. We want to take full responsibility and accountability for who we are, or at least the way that we express ourselves. We want to be able to express ourselves clearly, to ask confidently for the support that we need or how somebody can support us in meeting our own needs. This is why this work is so important for us. So an example of this would be if you see certain situations and people that trigger jealousy within you, if you feel that within you and it's, an unpleasant feeling. And often we judge ourselves for feeling jealousy, right? We know that that doesn't make us, a better person. When we're jealous, we often have a lot of judgment about the fact that we are feeling jealous. We're hard on ourselves. So we feel shit about whatever we're jealous about, and then we feel shit because we're feeling that way, right? So what this kind of writing practice can do is allows you to see what's happening underneath the jealousy. So we don't just stop at feeling jealous. We don't, it either goes two ways. You shame yourself for feeling jealous or you repress the feeling. You just don't deal with it. We actually want to get to what is below that. Is there a deeper need not being met? Is there a particular person or situation that's triggering it? And if so, why? Is there something that I need to heal within myself? Or sometimes perhaps it's just simply you're feeling that way. Maybe you're just jealous. It's kind of legitimate and it's nothing more than an appropriate response to the situation and nothing you need to unpack. This is the kind of work that we do so that you can understand how you're feeling, so that you don't judge it. You don't stop the moment you are in just because you're feeling an emotion that you don't have a capacity to feel or that you have judged or you have shamed. It's allowing yourself and your truth to come through and be seen and be heard and be understood. So this is what I'll be sharing in the program in great detail, is the use of Gloria Wilcox's emotion wheel. And so this helps us to articulate how we are feeling. Many women have a really hard time articulating how they feel. And so having a wheel like this that helps us get beyond just the vague statements of how we're feeling will help us to really name and identify and feel it, which will lead to greater empowerment and self-awareness. So it's not just up to you to be able to just clearly articulate how you're feeling in the moment. When we journal, we come and we use a resource like this. We use this image and we go through it and we work out exactly how we are feeling. I could say I'm feeling really sad. But in order to get to the root of what that is, it's more helpful to look at other words that, define what that sadness is in a way that's more workable or more specific. So you can see here for sad, there's guilty, ashamed, depressed, lonely, bored, and tired. And then that branches out as well. And you can keep branching those words out until you really find a word that resonates with how you truly feel. And it could be a mixture of these things. But we start by first giving ourselves permission to sit and to really work out, okay, what is it that I am feeling? If I had to choose a word or a few words to really describe how I'm feeling, what is it? Give yourself permission to identify it, to make it real in the moment, to not repress it, deny it, ignore it, but to call it forward and say, this is how I feel. It's very powerful to allow yourself to do that. Then there's two phases. Once we've been able to identify the emotion, we work through two phases, and this is where you start writing. So phase one is presencing and investigation. So that's really being present with the emotion and then getting really curious about it. And we ask certain questions of ourselves and we give ourselves time to record our responses. Now, we don't just want to think about this, we always want to write when we are journaling, okay? So step one is to sit and feel the feeling. Trust that the feeling is valid, allowed to exist, and there for a reason. You want to ask yourself, where do I feel this in my body? Is it in my chest? Is it in my stomach? Is it in my head? Is it in my neck? Where is this feeling residing within you? And you track and find the emotion within your body. It's part of being able to acknowledge it's there and perhaps moving in a way that allows you to release it. Does it have a color, a temperature, a sensation? I know for me, certain emotions trigger this clenched feeling within my chest and my throat. And I feel it's a kind of heat, I guess, that rises within me. I start to breathe in a way that feels really shallow, and everything within me just begins to move in a way that's really, really fast. And I can't cling to a clear thought. So whenever I notice that within myself, I need to go back and look at that wheel and really identify what is going on for me. Where do I feel it in my body? And just acknowledge that it is happening. That's the prompt to start this journaling experience for most of us. But if you don't really know how you're feeling, if you just know that you're uncomfortable, you don't like the way you're feeling, you start this process here and you sit and you allow yourself to think, okay, what am I feeling? Where is it in my body? Allow it to be there, call it forward, and then we start to work with it. Am I feeling anger, frustration, confusion? In this step, we're identifying the feeling. Are there multiple feelings here at once? Can I be more honest with myself about what is present? Sometimes we don't like to truly admit the way that we are feeling because, like I said before, we judge ourselves for feeling certain emotions that maybe we have not been given permission to feel. Maybe we've been judged in the past for those feelings, or maybe we've judged others for having those feelings. So if they're present within us, we try and deny, ignore, repress. What is really there for you? What is really coming through for you? A lot of the times, anger is an emotion that disguises things that are far deeper than that. Behind anger, there's often different emotions that will come through and be seen, to be understood, to be expressed, if you give yourself permission to really speak the truth of what is happening. And so we write this down, and you can see this isn't like a long form thing. This could be dot points, just actually calling forward, bringing forward what is really going on for you. Step 3 is we identify the part of you that is present. Often, when emotions are coming forward, it's because something that we are experiencing is reminding us of something that we have already experienced. So we want to ask ourselves, what part of me is really triggered right now? What part of me is feeling this way? Because remember, we are multifaceted. Not all of you is feeling this way, but there's probably a part of you that is feeling this way. And then we can ask ourselves, how old is this part? Is this something from childhood that I have experienced that is now being triggered in me? If you were bullied at high school or rejected from your friendship group in high school, and you feel isolated and lonely as an adult, it could be that part of you that is really hurting and thinking, no, don't let this happen to you again. And it's making you anxious. It's asking yourself, what part of you is present right now? If you've had someone betray you or be dishonest or maybe cheat on you in the past, and you're feeling overwhelmed or jealous or insecure, yeah, it could be that part of you that is coming forward, that part of you that was hurt, that maybe you haven't healed yet, that part of you that has never had a chance to really be expressed and explored and released, that is, coming forward and feeling this way now. Are there multiple parts of me that is present? How would I identify this part of me? And what needs do they have? This is challenging for me to be able to communicate in a quick workshop like this, but in understanding who we are, and one of the experiences that I'm sharing in the mindset reset that I'm doing is we're doing a history of me exercise where we go through and we create a timeline of who we are, what we have experienced, and it really helps us to recall and remember things that we have been through positively and negatively in our life that could be showing up and triggering certain emotions within us. And if we can identify which part of us is feeling this way, what it does is it allows us to understand what is happening in the moment. It affirms that, yes, I'm feeling this way, but we can also affirm there are other parts of me that are strong enough, resilient enough, compassionate enough, empathetic enough to deal with this and to help yourself in the moment. And then what we do is we step into the observer of this part. What am I feeling? And when we do this, we're just observing ourselves, observing our thoughts, observed what we have written, and taking a step back from that emotion. And we're creating a little bit of space between who we are and how we are feeling. That's mindfulness. To know that what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling is separate from who I truly am at the base of my being. You're the observer of them. And it provides some distance between you and your feelings because we want to disempower those feelings just ever so slightly. We're not making them wrong. We're not judging them, but we're understanding that our feelings are not who we truly are. It's just something that we are experiencing in the moment that we are in. And we get to choose how to relate to them as we process them. So then we determine any judgments that we're holding on to about feeling that way, right? Loneliness is something for a long time that I had a really hard time dealing with, because I grew up in a household where my dad was traveling a long time. He'd go away for work for long periods of time. And my mum was very lonely, and she would express that, not to me, to others. And I would hear her talk about how lonely she was. So I made loneliness this like very bad, dangerous thing that could suck the joy out of my mum and my family. And so loneliness, being alone, being left behind, is something that is a really challenging thing for me to kind of resolve within myself. And I did a lot of work in learning how to be safe with the feeling of loneliness, to understand that loneliness is just the absence of love. And I can actually be really grateful for the fact that if I'm feeling lonely, it means that there are others that fulfill me, relationships that really fill my cup. And I can be grateful for that and have trust and faith in the fact that I will not be lonely forever. I'm just lonely in this moment. But it is safe to be lonely. Loneliness doesn't take away from me or my life. It is not dangerous. Can you see how, if you can understand why you are judging the way you are feeling, you begin to release the power that it has over you? You can determine any unmet needs that you're sensing below the feeling and determine any fears present. This is something I'm going to walk the women through in my program in great detail, so that they can begin to understand that the way that they're thinking and feeling is indicating an unmet need at the base of their being that needs to be called forward. Often it takes a lot of time to be able to bring that forward and process it and understand it. But sometimes we can bring something forward, realize that it is not relevant to who we are today in the life that we are living, and we can choose to let that go. And so every time we experience that emotion again, because we have processed it, because we have journaled it, because we understand it, we say, oh, yep, I see you. I understand where you're coming from, but I don't need to feel like that anymore. I'm choosing not to. And we let that go. And then the fun part, not really, the part that makes you really reliable and safe and secure within yourself, is that you begin to know yourself as a person that can step into solutions. So as we're exploring these emotions, we're not exploring them to say like, oh gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so scared, I need to work out what they are. It's let me understand how I'm feeling so I can meet my needs in the moment. So how can I meet this need myself? How can I share what my needs may be? How can I forgive myself for judging myself, others, or the situation? And then how can I just celebrate myself for showing up and doing the work? Every time we sit down and we do something that is in the best interest of our own well-being, whether we have the outcome that we hoped we would or not, we need to allow ourselves to really feel into the pride and just joy and love we should feel for self, that we have actually taken time for ourselves. And often journaling through this heavy shit can feel really heavy. So it's nice sometimes, once you've done something, to push yourself away from the journaling experience and go and do something that feels like it's in complete contrast to that. You might just like to go outside and take some deep breaths and look up at the sun. You might like to go and make yourself a nice cup of tea, put some music on, have a shower, celebrate yourself in a way that, acknowledges the hard work that you have been doing and really sitting and anchoring into what you have been feeling, because that work is work. It gets easier once you begin to understand yourself, once you begin to trust yourself, once you get to know yourself as a person that can step into solutions. Yeah, you move through it in a way that's, I guess it feels a little more effortless. But initially, honoring the truth within you that you may have been just denying, repressing, or you haven't fully understood ever, doing that work, it kind of feels like you're walking through mud. It's like icky and sticky and it's hard to get through, and you kind of don't even want to be doing it, but you're already mucky, so you might as well keep going, right? I fully acknowledge that this work is challenging to begin with, but it is so, 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 so worth it. So I know I've overwhelmed you. I knew I would, because, these journaling practices, for them to be really powerful, they have to be in depth. They have to move the needle forward. And so to do that, they have to be kind of a little technical in a way that allows you to tap into what's at the base of your being, but in a way that is kind of like, I don't know, rooted in strategy and system, so that you actually don't just sit there with a blank piece of paper and just write some random shit. It's actually calling forward the truth in you. It's understanding that, and it's bringing solution to the way that you are feeling so that you no longer feel trapped by your own emotions. So this Sunday, I begin 27 days of teaching intimately online with a beautiful group of women. I've got 10 that have registered so far. So it's going to be a beautiful, intimate container of women that are going to work through things such as this. I'm going to teach lots of different things, and the women will be able to pick up what resonates with them. I'm going to help them curate daily practices that best suit them. We're going to do things like personality quizzes. I'm going to help you uncover your core drivers, the things that actually move you and motivate you and matter to you. We're going to explore your personal history and experience embodiment practices. It's going to be fun. I'm laughing because I know it's going to, gently coerce women to step out of the comfort zone that they are in and to explore self-care in a way that they probably haven't experienced before. And I'll be supporting you in curating and creating things like sacred spaces and special resources that you are going to be able to use long after this program finishes to continue to support yourself, to have the daily rituals that make you feel good from the inside out. No matter what happens to you in the world, no matter what happens in the day, you are going to learn how to return safely to a part within yourself that knows exactly what matters, who you are, how to get to the source of what you are feeling, and then how to work with that. So every day you just wake up excited to get to know yourself in a new way, to unlayer, to unravel, to build just a sense of just integrity and self-love and worthiness that comes from you, not through anything that you create in the world, not through any interaction that you have, but the depth of relationship that you are creating for yourself within yourself. And we do this by just engaging in these sorts of practices and taking this on for ourselves. It's a real gift to allow yourself to say yes to an opportunity like this that's just about taking time for yourself. So it's 27 days of support from me. And I've said to the women that were asking me about it already, it is up to you how much time you spend each day engaging with the program. And you'll have access to it for a few months. So you don't have to do it in 27 days consecutively, although I feel like the compounding effect of doing that would be fantastic. But you can engage with it for 10 minutes a day. There are going to be things that are so simple that you can take on for yourself that if you haven't really been doing anything much, it's going to feel like a lot. Or right up to the women that are so ready to fully immerse themselves in things, you could do up to half an hour a day of this program. So it's not like this big, massive thing, big, massive undertaking. It's definitely something that you can use to suit you and your lifestyle, because I get it. We're all doing all the things all the time, but we can't wait to have all the time in the world to turn inward. We're never going to have that for ourselves. So I've got the details here. The best thing to do, I guess, there's the website, lenamoxon.com/reset27. Go and read about it in detail. And if it's a yes for you, even if it's just a little niggle of a yes, I suggest you hit the register button. It will open a chat with me and we can discuss it and see if it's right for you. All right, my loves. Hope this has helped somebody.